You brought this on yourselves. Now you face the master of primal elements! Lightning strike! Kurog and his creations will not threaten us again.
We cannot afford to relent. Not until we stop Razageth.
Kurog and his creations will not threaten us again.
We cannot afford to relent. Not until we stop Razageth.
What up, Shane? Yeah, I was okay, man. I was so tired. I think our youngest got vaccinated a couple of days ago. Just one of the regular ones, not coronavax. Dude, fuck that shit. Not the coronavax. Just one of the regular ones. And he had a rough night, yesterday. So I was tired. That's probably just it. Dude, and I didn't get the fucking TP. Sucky. Maybe I'll try normal, see what it is. Yeah. I mean, no, not really, but yeah, he is. I mean, he's not okay, but he's better. I mean, but it's to be expected, dude. It's just always how it is when you get vaxxed. You get like a couple of days, 1 to 2 days of fever-like symptoms. Oh, okay, Shane. Take care, dude.
opinion on it because it's not relevant to this conversation. If you want to talk about MLK, we can.
You acknowledge the facts that happened.
I don't care. It's not relevant to this conversation.
It is relevant.
Not relevant
because the prosecutors in Romania are part of DICOT, which is controlled by the Trafficking in Persons report established by the United States. And that DICOT organization that you can read about on the State Department, U.S. State Department website, is deputized by the U.S. government to prosecute this case involving Andrew Tate. So it is highly relevant what the U.S. government does in previous cases of these kinds of accusations.
Yep, I read the exact same Twitter thread that I know you're referencing, but no evidence has been given whatsoever that these charges are political in nature. If you have any evidence, I would love to hear it.
That's
but simply
context,
showing,
no,
that's not context. Simply showing that the United States is trying to work with other countries around the world to fight sex trafficking is not the big W that you think it is. Romania has traditionally had
many countries have complained about how the U.S. has authorized itself to be the police of the entire world. And they point out that it's extremely political how the U.S. uses these types of lists. So
I'm going to ask again after
all of this is relevant because it is highly political. Like for you to claim that this is not a political situation, it's completely political free. The U.S. could care less about the position of Andrew Tate on social media and the messages that he puts out. Like that is beyond belief, especially when we have the Twitter files showing that the FBI is literally involved in policing like random conservative Twitter accounts, like no-name 5-follower Twitter accounts on Twitter, like directing Twitter as a company to take down even these random conservative accounts. But they're somehow not concerned with Andrew Tate, someone who has the millions of followers and is the most Googled person on the internet.
Yeah, so I just want to point out for the audience. So what I'm trying to do is ask a very specific pointed question, and I'm going to return to it every time. And your goal is to ramble about irrelevant stuff because you have nothing on this topic. So I'm going to refocus on the same question again, and I'll see where you ramble off to. But my question is there any direct evidence that these charges for Andrew Tate are political in nature?
I don't see how you think it's irrelevant. Like this is, first of all, there's a presumption of innocence with any kind of criminal prosecution. So you have to take into consideration potentials for the obstruction of justice, potential for violations of due process. That's all concerning the legal case.
Have there been any violations of due process?
Yeah, the ones that I described.
Which ones? What was a violation of due process?
There's no statute of limitations.
If the statute of limitations has been removed as part of the Romanian criminal code, how is that a violation of due process?
Statute of limitations
it's by definition in Romania that's not a violation of due process. You're wrong. You're just wrong. But go ahead. You can say go to number 2 if you want. Yeah.
There are certain human rights standards about due process, and statute of limitations is one of them. That's that's found in the U.S. legal system for a reason.
Yeah, but Andrew Tate specifically removed to Romania. You're telling me that the United Nations has made a formal statement saying that no country is allowed to remove a statute of limitations on any crime? Is that a statement that the UN has made?
No, you're misinterpreting what I'm saying.
I'm not. Hold on. Very clearly, what you're saying is that Romania not having a statute of limitations in regards to sex crimes is somehow a violation of some fundamental right. Now, you appealed to the United States, but what is I don't even remember the amendment. But that's the United States Criminal Code. We're not in the United States. Andrew Tate specifically moved to Romania in order to take advantage of the Romanian legal system.
Hey,
so the United States. Wait, hold on, real quick. So the United States criminal.
My answer to your question.
Well, because you're not explaining anything. If you're saying the UN has made,
anything.
I'm because it's not my job to explain. I'm asking you a question. The original question to recenter again was: is there any evidence that any of these charges are political in nature? And you're rambling now about due process, as I said you would, because you will ramble because you have absolutely no evidence.
My opening statement had 3 points. Okay. Political control. Mm-hmm. So you want to disregard that. This case
I'm not disregarding it. I'm asking what evidence you have for it.
The evidence I gave you the evidence of the Twitter files and how the U.S. is highly concerned with social media personalities and are actively involved in trying to deplatform people on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and so forth. So that shows the political concern. I gave you historical examples of Martin Luther King, Julian Assange. Do you not think that those cases are political?
What do you
they involve rape accusations of dissident political figures, and I just want you to acknowledge, which you refuse to do, that this case could also have political ramifications or a political context, but you want to deny that. So that's fine. So I moved to the legal aspect of it, which is violations of due process. I mentioned statute of limitations. This is a fundamental part of due process across many legal systems, including the U.S. legal system.
We're not in the
which
US.
is the one that is policing human trafficking. As you mentioned, the U.S. is policing trafficking across the world. So do you think legal standards in the U.S. are relevant to that? And number two, the rape and fraud and coercion, exploitation, these are ill-defined and they're very subjective.
Já vi, agora é só pra máscara.
Viu só pela máscara, né? Tem nas costas também, tem um monte, tá?
Olha que jeito, né?
Teu braço esquerdo aqui, ele tá quebrado, tá? E atrás das tuas costas tem 4 cortes.
Mas que jeito fizeram isso aí?
Tá com os aços.
Mas que jeito?
Just as a note, you're rambling again. I'm going to re-ask the same question. We go right back to
how is that distinguished from the standards of trafficking and rape that we find in Tate's case and in others?
So evidence is not, the government has done these things in the past and therefore they're doing it now in the future. That's literally just a logical nonsense. I don't want to use the debate term. It doesn't make sense to say, well, if the government does something bad in the past, they must be doing, it doesn't. They must be doing bad things in the future. For that, we need something called evidence. I don't know if you know what evidence is or what evidence means, but evidence is typically going to be some collection of facts that point you towards, in some kind of concrete manner, of doing something. Saying this happened in the past, therefore it's happening in the future, that wouldn't work in a court of law. It wouldn't work in an argument with a friend. It wouldn't work on a Reddit debate post. I don't know why you can cite. I don't know why you can cite. I don't. Hold on, I let you ramble for like 5 minutes, okay? I don't know why you can cite MLK. I don't know why you can cite people who died almost a century ago and say, well, since they did it there, they must have international pressure on other countries. Even if I did accept the MLK example, it's still quite dissimilar to the United States using international pressure to control another country's legal system. And by doing so, you're also like just hand-waving all of the evidence that is out there relating to the charges that have been brought to Andrew Tate. Now, if you want to harp on this thing like due process isn't being met because there's no statute of limitations, you can't cite that anywhere. You know you can't cite that. The UN hasn't released a statement saying that countries aren't allowed to have no statute of limitations. That's not even an important part of due process. Due process just ensures that you have some engagement with the legal system that allows you some sort of like trial, some sort of representation, some sort of ability to plead your case in front of hopefully some dispassionate body that allows you to get an outcome that is fair. The idea that there's no statute of limitations around sex trafficking, I don't think it's a substantial violation of a due process. It certainly isn't in the Romanian Criminal Code. As of 2014, I can't find anything that bans that, and it certainly isn't the case that the UN has made any statements about that. So everything you're saying about that is just complete and total nonsense, unless you want to appeal to U.S. legal standards, but unfortunately, the Tate brothers specifically said they moved to Romania to take advantage of their legal system, so I don't know why you would cite U.S. legal precedents here. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Now, you keep going back to also this thing saying that, like, oh, the charges are vague, oh, whatever. If you want, I can link you, 2014 Romanian Criminal Code. I sourced some of it for you. We can go through Article 210. We can look at what trafficking means, and, you know, we can read it down, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree. I don't think that it's vague at all. I think it's pretty obvious. If you traffic in human persons, if you recruit, transport, transfer, harbor, or receive them from another person by means of coercion, abduction, deception, that means lying, and then you use that to sell pornographic material, that seems like it's sex trafficking. Pretty obvious in Article 210 there. I don't think there's anything that's vague. Article 182 has more to do with exploitation, but yeah, if you want to have like an actual argument over the thing, it's pretty sad. It's pretty sad if you're just going to hand wave everything, saying, well, in the past these things happened, and everything is like very vague because you don't seem to engage with any of the facts of the matter, which I spent a lot of time unfortunately researching. So if you want to talk about any of the facts of the matter, be interested, but vague allusions to the Twitter files or MLK are not it. Yeah.
Like your internet sleuthing, like you're watching clips online, you're just taking evidence, like what you call evidence is whatever is fed to you by Vice News and these different outlets, which are very opposed to Tate, they're very anti-Tate, who are putting selected clips out. And you've acknowledged this yourself.
No, I have not. That's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie.
You have acknowledged this yourself that it's possible that these things that Andrew Tate himself says are not true, like he's just playing a part, he's just playing a character. And if it's true, what he's saying, if it's true on these videos, then that would constitute sex trafficking. So you yourself have acknowledged this kind of plausible or reasonable doubt in your streams, multiple streams, your debate with Sneeko and so forth. But now you want to say that, no, you never said that. Fine, that's okay. The other thing that I want to point out is that all of the sex trafficking standards that you want to cite and take as irrefutable facts that no one has a problem with, there are plenty of people who have problems with these standards, and specifically the fact that the U.S. is the police of sex trafficking, and they use their TIP report, trafficking in persons report, to give different countries tiers, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And this is highly politicized. Countries like Malaysia have written reports that this is a violation of international laws to have the U.S. deputize itself to traffic other countries and put other countries on lists based on its own standards that it defines according to U.S. law, and then use that to penalize countries, because if a country is put on a tier 3 sex trafficking list, that it hurts them economically, because a lot of businesses are not going to do business with tier 3 countries.
Taylor.
So this is a political weapon.
Thanks for follow, dude. Man, I had to go AFK. Luckily, I didn't die.
Improving the effectiveness of the international law of human trafficking, a vision for the future of U.S.
Come on, man. Tier piece, let's go.
Human Rights Review, and she says that this TIPS trafficking report from the U.S. has been criticized on a wide range of fronts. Quote, it's very existence.
Dude, I did garbage DPS because I was so AFK in this boss. Holy.
To object to the USA appointing itself supervisor and arbiter of a complex international issue that remains both contested and controversial. So there is nothing, just settled about this idea of trafficking that you keep saying. This is ignorance of this conversation around human trafficking, because this is a highly contested and controversial issue. What you want to hand wave and say that no, everything is settled.
Oh my God, dude.
Trafficking is. And I gave you examples. Like if someone says that, oh, I love you, let's have a relationship, but it turns out that they don't actually love the person. Is that fraud?
If they used that relationship that they promised you to bring you to another country and sell you as pornographic material, that would be sex trafficking, which is exactly what Andrew Tate did. So yes.
Right, so
just curious.
Is that case?
Would
fraud?
you? No, it's not. It wouldn't be. No, we can look at. There's a whole bunch of. It doesn't. No, there's not. What is the exploitation? What is the exploitation there?
The definition of rape. I asked, is it rape?
You said there's exploitation there. What is the exploitation?
It's a lie. You've lied to
That's
someone
not exploitation. Article 182 in the Romanian Civil Code clearly states, it says, forcing persons into prostitution, pornography in view of obtaining and distributing pornographic material or any other types of sexual exploitation. That is what exploitation is defined as in Article 182 for the Romanian Criminal Code, which is referenced in Article 210 when we talk about trafficking for human persons. Here's a question. If Andrew Tate was Christian, would you be defending him?
Yep.
Okay. Why did you even bring up the fact? Why did you bring up the fact that he was a Muslim?
Julian Assange.
Okay.
I defend
just curious.
Assange.
So.
I made that statement just at the beginning to make sure that it's clear that I disavow the pornography business as a Muslim.
Are we allowed to
That's
watch?
Why it's relevant.
Are we allowed to play clips here that we can talk about a clip or no?
Sure, works for me.
Okay. Do you want to you brought up something.
I brought the example of rape because he is charged with rape. So if a woman lies to a man and says that I've only slept, or I'm a virgin, and she sleeps with a man, is that rape because she lied?
No, I don't believe anybody's been prosecuted for that.
No, there have been cases of prosecution for lying to gain sex. For example,
no. Lying and saying you were a virgin? No, there have not been. Not in the United States. Maybe somewhere in the world, but not in the United States.
Okay, so what if someone says that, for example, I'm Jewish, okay, and has sex with a Jewish woman, and then it turns out he's a Palestinian, or he's non-Jewish?
I don't know what any of these have to do with this. We're talking about lying to somebody. It's not relevant. We're talking about lying to somebody.
Of rape
no, you're trying to play. You're trying to play some fuzzy around the edges thing to try to get me on a. Yeah, we're not talking about that.
The definition of fraud.
We're not talking about fraud.
And coercion are subjective. That's the point that I'm trying to
they are somewhat subjective. That's why you go to court. That's why you have judges and juries that make rulings on these things. If you sit
The
in front of a
legal
judge and you
standard
try to
is
say, well,
subjective.
stealing is subjective, maybe they dropped it and I immediately picked it up and ran away with it, a judge is going to laugh at you and throw the book at you, obviously. We can't say that just because it's completely and totally impossibly difficult to figure one thing out or another, like on some rigid, like define the edges on every single thing, that means that there's no such thing as fraud or no such thing as coercion, right? Lying to somebody and saying, I was a virgin.
The definition of rape.
There is a definition.
Of rape has to do with
we're not talking about rape. We're talking about sex trafficking right now. We're talking about sex trafficking.
One of the charges is rape.
We're not talking about that charge. I don't
trafficking.
care about that charge.
Why are we not talking about that charge? You don't care about rape? You don't care about
when
the
it
rape
comes
charge?
to Andrew Tate, the big charge is the sex trafficking. That's what he's being charged with.
There's an overlap in the definition for trafficking and the definition for rape.
No,
because
those
they
are
both
two
involve
distinct things.
Fraud and coercion. Both of their definitions involve fraud and coercion. That's why I'm talking about the subjectivity of fraud and coercion. That's how it's relevant.
Okay, can I use like a
2-minute
talking? Can I use a 2-minute talking time and get Daniel's opinion on this? Oh, also, I want to push back on one other thing you said. You said that I'm showing clips from Vice, et cetera, et cetera. Most of the evidence I've gotten has come from Tate himself. I'm not relying on cut-up interviews from Vice or things republished from Vox or something. I'm just going by statements that Andrew and Tristan Tate have made. They've done plenty of podcasts. They've released plenty of material where they've spoken about what they do. If James will play it. Here, we can listen to this 2 or 3 minute clip right here where he answers explicitly how he utilizes his bottom bitch, as he calls her, Vivian, in order to entrap other women, downplay their relationship, and then later use them for pornographic purposes. And then you can tell me if this sounds like coercive or if this sounds like deception or not.
All right, but the thing is, I said that deception can be immoral, but it's not necessarily illegal.
Not necessarily, but in the case where you use it to solicit,
that's the problem with the. That's the problem.
That's not the problem. That's not the problem. If you use it to lure a girl into a fake relationship and then force her to sell pornography and then steal from her, that's sex trafficking.
Yeah, you're using very charged terms.
Wait, hold on. It is not charged. It lures by saying, "Come here and I will marry you." It's stealing because he talks about how he will steal from them by faking their taxes.
How do you know that he, for any particular girl, didn't actually have the intention to marry her? Because he's stated on different podcasts that he has multiple wives, or he's implied that he has multiple wives.
I don't think he's ever said that. I think he said he's had multiple girlfriends.
Look at Pierce Morgan's interview, where he admits, or he implies and suggests that he has multiple wives. Pierce Morgan asked him, "Are you married?" And he says maybe, and he says, "Do you have multiple wives?" Something along that nature, and he implies that yes, he does. He implies that he has multiple wives.
Oh, okay.
So
then do you agree then that he should be punished in Romania because that's illegal in Romanian law? You can't have more than one wife at a time. Do you think he should go to jail for that? In Romania, bigamy, defined as marriage conducted by a person who's already married, is punishable by up to 2 years in prison or fine. Knowingly marrying a married person is punishable up to 1 year in prison or fine. I think this is illegal in a lot of countries.
If there is, if he did break the law, then yeah, I would say that he should go to prison for that. But our debate is about trafficking and rape, and you're using this kind of charged language, saying he's luring people for marriage, and he has shown that he's very interested in marriage. He potentially has multiple wives.
That doesn't mean that he hasn't married every girl. Yeah. Oh, here, James, you can do another ramble, and then we should just watch this like 2 or 3 minute clip. Like it's just such a clear outline of like how he's like his pimp model works. Like it's just very obvious.
Yeah.
Once you hit the
you can't even
green share button, if you want to click as well share audio, it'll have like a little checkbox.
Wait, I linked it in the chat on the right. I can't share it because of weird things on my computer, so you gotta do it.
Got it.
Share either.
Let me open it up.
It's gonna like ruin the format on the stream.
What I'll do is I will play it. It's a little bit. Let me just hold it at the timestamp. In the meantime, as I set this up, folks, I want to remind you our guests are linked in the description. Highly encourage you to check them out if you haven't already. Hold on 2 seconds. I'm just gonna pause this. 38:17. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll play this, and it'll be slightly potentially. Ooh, it's starting to actually delay on OBS. It's a little bit.
Just play the audio.
You can just play the audio if you want, if that's possible.
It seems like whenever I play a video on YouTube on the same laptop that I'm using OBS, that's when it usually
crashes the stream.
Like that, even without me clicking share on Zoom. I think with OBS and Zoom and then playing a YouTube video, my laptop's just not jacked enough to handle that. So what I could do, and then OBS, right, Daniel, you're running OBS too, is
you can play it on your phone.
Touche.
And then hold it up to the mic, and we can at least hear the audio.
I like that. Very good. Let me just shoot this to me myself in the email. I'll let you guys continue for maybe another minute or so, and then I'll
Also, in that Pierce Morgan thing, I don't think he ever explicitly says that he was married. He kind of hints at it. But Andrew Tate, yes, but Andrew Tate has explicitly said in the past in other interviews, and I'll link you this, he stated multiple times that he will never get married. And I've listened to his brother talk about the same thing too, that if he ever got married, like he would give all of his... He changed in like 6 months?
Yeah.
He became Muslim? What do you think about him still running casinos?
So
isn't that one of the largest like sins
his
under...
close friend... Yeah, it is. I hope that he closes his casino business, and his best
so
friend,
so
Tam
if he
Khan,
hasn't
has
closed...
indicated, don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt. His best friend Tam Khan has said that he intends to close those businesses. It's yet to be seen. If Andrew Tate does not close his casino businesses, then I, as a Muslim, would criticize him for that. I would say that's highly immoral, and I'd have no problem with that. Here's a question for you, Destiny.
Well, hold on, just real quick on the. So he hasn't done that yet. So I don't know why you would assume he's changed. There's no reason to. Also, when he was luring these girls in the past, he wasn't a Muslim yet. He wasn't Islamic. So I don't know why you would assume he was bringing them to marry them like 2 or 3 or 4 years ago if he just recently converted to Islam. None of that argument makes sense.
Well, we don't know if when he plays a role for his Hustlers University or for his social media, he's claiming to be a bachelor, but actually he is married. Like, we don't know that. But here's a question for you, Destiny. Is it, if a man gets a woman to work for her and give her money based on lies like, oh, I love you, or oh, I'm a virgin, is it sex trafficking?
If it's sexual in nature, yes.
So all of these, the whole cam business where you have women who are messaging men, oh, I love you, oh, send me money, oh, I need your money. Or like the whole sugar daddy business where a woman in college has these kinds of relationships where a man is paying her and she's, reciprocating with sex based on, oh, I love you, you're my daddy, etc. This is all rape and trafficking according to you.
No, can you define it as such? How? I don't understand how camming, if somebody's paying for sexual services, that's not trafficking. That's you're paying for prostitution or paying for sexual services.
But it's based on the high amounts of money that are paid in a sugar daddy type of relationship.
Do you want to talk about sugar daddies or do you want to talk about camming? I don't know why we're bringing these.
It's an overlapping phenomenon.
It's not over. These are two completely distinctly different things.
Well, no.
I have the video.
Cam girls also state that they love these clients, that they try to develop these kinds of parasitic relationships with them for the purpose of extracting more and more money from them. So do you think that's exploitative of a sexual nature?
If they're, to make it trafficking, they would have to be soliciting sexual material from the men and then republishing it and then making money off of it. You could argue that it's a form of coercion or fraud. Sure. I don't know if anybody's been prosecuted for that.
Coercion or fraud, and it's a sexual nature. So those are the definitions that you brought up for.
No, trafficking requires the exploitation part. I can read the definition for you for a third part.
To lie to someone and then play with their emotions in order to extract money from them. That is exploitation.
No. I'm talking about exploitation insofar as it's defined in the Romanian criminal code, because that's what we're arguing about today, not whether or not girls exploit their sugar daddies. Article 182 clearly states that it's forcing persons into prostitution, pornography, in view of obtaining and distributing pornographic material or any other types of sexual exploitation.
But
that's what exploitation means.
You consider forcing for Andrew Tate to tell someone that he loves them and to mislead them about his feelings for them.
Correct.
You consider that part of exploitation. So I'm pointing out that women can also do that too, and it's actually something that's monetized into entire industries like the sugar daddy industry, like the cam.
If Andrew Tate was just saying that to get girls to send him nudes, that would be different. But he's bringing the girls out, meaning he's transporting them, which is an important part of Article 210, and he's monetizing them, which is another important part of Article 210, I think subsection C, and he's stealing from them, which I think hits subsection B, which counts as a form of exploitation. He's literally stealing. He gives advice on how to steal from their taxes.
That is exploitation. So it's you have no problem with exploitation then if it's done by cam girls.
Exploitation is one measure of sex trafficking as laid out in the Romanian criminal code. If you want to have a separate debate on whether or not cam girls are exploitative, or on whether or not the CIA or the FBI killed MLK, hold on. If you want to talk about any of these other topics, we can. But I came here with a whole bunch of evidence and a whole bunch of information relating to Andrew Tate and whether or not the actions that he's admitted to on camera and that have been leaked by the prosecution and that have been claimed by other second and third party individuals constituted sex trafficking insofar as it's defined by the 2014 Romanian Criminal Code. I'm not here to talk about MLK, Julian Assange, past actions of the United States government, or weird conspiracy theories. So if you have information related to this, I would be super curious, but none of this is relevant. Talking about cam girls and sugar daddies has nothing to do.
But just because we have that video ready, I'm gonna play it. This is Andrew Tate on the screen, and you can't see that, folks, because I'm playing it from the phone. So let me just turn this all the way up. Okay, here we go.
How do you manage hierarchies? Let's say with two girls. Does the first girl have seniority over the second girl? No. Girls won't take that. If you have one girl who's clearly better than the other one, you're going to struggle massively. The second girl is just not going to stick around for very long. I've had it where I've had girls who say, oh, I know you're with Vivian. I know you've been with her a long time. I don't mind. I'll stay out tonight. You two stay alone. All that shit. But it never lasts long. Because the ones who are really in love with you won't do that. So the only girls who do that aren't really in love with you. You have to be such an imposing, dominating force that there's no room for hierarchy underneath you. You have to be like, when I say imposing and dominating, I'm not talking about being a psycho. I mean, your personality has to be so large that you're in charge of everything. There is no hierarchy. How can there be a hierarchy? You just have to be like, okay, I need a coffee. You make me a coffee and you cook me something. If you send one to make the coffee, then there's a hierarchy. Either way, if you send one to make the coffee, it can either be seen as you trust her more and want her more, or she's lower than the other one because she's a slave. Women will always just make up a reason. So it doesn't matter which one you choose, they'll decide it's negative. So you have to send them both. Go make me a coffee. Who? Both of you. Go. You have to be like that. You have to be dominant to a point where there's no room for hierarchy. It's just you and everyone else. Now that's easy for my personality. For other people it can be slightly harder, but there's a whole bunch of stupid fiddly shit you need to learn to do if you want to truly have two girls in the long term. You gotta learn to sleep on your back. You can't sleep on your side. You sleep on your right side. I'm telling you now.
There's like 30 seconds left.
And
he talks about that Vivian girl.
Maybe not the first night, but by night 10 she will. Well, you're always facing her and you're hugging her and I'm on my own. This is the little dumb shit you have to deal with. But basically, you have to be big, large enough personality that you handle it. There is no hierarchy. You can't clearly have women below women. They don't like that shit. What you do when you're in my situation, where you have a girlfriend of 6 years, and you try and bring a new girl in, you actually have to downplay your relationship with the girl of 6 years, which is difficult. And I only get away with that because the girl of 6 years plays along. So Vivian's been with me 6 years. She's completely head over heels in love with me. She wants kids with me, everything. And we met and we felt whatever, we're in love. But when a new girl comes, she'll go, oh yeah, I started off working for him.
How long is this? It's ending now, just as
this. Super downplay us. So that the new girl feels like, well, they're just kind of work and sex, and now I'm here and he likes me, and she can believe in her mind that she can be equal. If Vivian was completely honest, well, he's been with me 6 years and we're going to be together forever, so then it's not going to ever work.
Okay, yeah, you can end here.
It depends how much control you have over your bottom bitch, because you have to be able to have
There's a pimp terminology, but yeah.
Any more?
So can I just respond to that without interruption?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, we have to distinguish between what is the standard practices within a cam business versus what is considered trafficking. Because the kinds of things that he's describing in terms of managing women in a cam business, how do we know that that's just not the standard, like, best practices of managing a cam business? Just in the same way that there's a veil between any kind of major company or major business and the employees. Anyone who's worked in the corporate world knows this, that you can't be 100% transparent with your employees. Like, for example, you can't let all of your employees know how much salary each person is making. Why? Because that creates all kinds of problems for the functionality of the team. So management typically, like if you work in corporate America, the management is not going to disclose what each employee is making. And if you ask, they won't tell you, or they are allowed to mislead you about that. There's all kinds of best practices for keeping your employees happy and motivated to work. And some of that will involve deception as a part of best practices that are taught in managerial schools and MBA programs within standard business. The only thing that's different about a cam business from a purely Western materialistic perspective is that you're dealing with sex. And that will involve emotions, and that will involve a kind of relationships that makes it more tricky and more complicated and potentially more damaging. I acknowledge that, which is why I think that pornography should be banned, because I don't think it's just Andrew Tate in his particular webcam business that is employing these practices. I think these are standard practices for any kind of pornography business and webcam business. And if you want to consider that exploitative and trafficking, fine, but that means you'd have to ban all of pornography, all of webcamming. Just be consistent with your standards. Don't have this attack on Andrew Tate and say, oh, see, he's using this kind of dishonesty, or he is veiling his true intentions just for the purposes of manipulation. Don't have that kind of standard for Andrew Tate, when in reality, these are practices, best practices for all of pornography. Anything that involves that level of sex and money together is going to be complicated in that kind of way. And I keep bringing up exploitation that women use in these same industries against men to exploit men. And Destiny seems to think that that kind of exploitation, there's no problem. It can be legal. Yeah, it's fine if the women are lying in order to extract money from men, to defraud men essentially through dishonesty. There's no problem. That should be legal according to Destiny. But if a man does it, then that's a problem, and he needs to be put in prison for 10 years.
Yeah, I don't know why you keep trying to say what I think should be legal or not in regards to women exploiting men. That's not what we came here to discuss. I haven't entered any statements about that. You have no idea. I don't care what you think my opinion is. If you want to talk to me on another time or in another debate, we can go over that. But that's not part of this discussion, so I'm not here to answer that question. When you say that it's standard practice, can you think of a single other pornographic studio in the world that manages their talent this way?
I imagine that it's.
I don't care what you imagine. Okay, so it's not most of them. Women on Pornhub are individually.
How do you know?
Because I'll tell you. The women that do OnlyFans aren't managed in this way. You can be an independent creator. You don't have to move anywhere. The women that work on Pornhub are all independently managed. For larger companies and studios like Brazzers and other people that manage talent, you never fly them around the world and keep them locked up anywhere. For the girls that work on My Free Cams or OnlyFans.
Where's your proof?
My proof is
how do you know those companies don't do that? How do you know
because
those
one, I know people.
You know Pornhub. You know Pornhub was investigated for child pornography and all kinds of illegal practices, and they were demonetized. Their payment processors closed them down. It was a huge scandal. Pornhub was involved in all kinds of criminality.
What do you think Pornhub was involved in? What do you think Pornhub was involved with?
They were involved with child, having
how were they
videos
involved?
of child
How were they
pornography,
involved? Yeah, how were they
and
involved
not
with
taking
that?
it down.
There you
not
go.
Taking those
so
videos
Pornhub themselves did not produce any of that, right? Whether it's criminality or not,
they're profiting off of it.
That's up to not anymore. That's why they have very stringent application things. Also, for the audience, notice how you just pivoted again to something completely irrelevant. The reality is that there is no. There is. I brought up Pornhub as an example of a place
of a great
where
model of
individual,
pornography,
where an individual
ethical model of pornography. That was what you brought up.
Gentlemen, hold on, just to be sure they can hear each of you.
I know you're really triggered about porn. If you want to do a porn debate, we could have just done a porn debate. But I'm not here to do a porn debate. I'm here to do a sex trafficking debate. You made the argument that this was standard practice. I know from personal experience it's not standard practice, and I know from every woman that has ever spoken being in these industries it's not standard practice, but you are right in a way, you just don't realize how you're correct. In a way, what he's doing is standard practice. It is incredibly standard practice for pimping. And if you watch any interviews with a pimp, if you watch the terminology that Andrew Tate uses, if you see the entire guide that he had on his Cobra PhD website that's now taken down, that I've linked to an internet archive of, if you read any of the statements there, that is a guide on how to pimp. Terminology that he uses like bottom bitch, the idea of bringing in one woman to lure another woman in to work for you, the idea of having women that think that they're part of a relationship with you and then moving them to another country to do sex trafficking, all of that is standard practice, but it's standard practice for pimping. So you don't have any examples of any studios anywhere that do their sex content like this, despite you saying it's standard practice and that you imagine it so. I don't know why you're imagining about porn. That sounds like it would be haram or something. But yeah, the idea that this is standard practice, you can't think of anybody that does it. I know that that's not true. I just named you like 3 or 4 different organizations that have women that do this that aren't managed in that way. And everything you're saying is standard practice, but it's standard practice in regards to pimping.
Yeah, I mean, I just find it funny how you mentioned like 2 main companies, and one of them, Pornhub, was involved in a major scandal of violations of ethics.
It had nothing to do with sex trafficking.
Don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt. Also, there are many people who complain about being exploited by Pornhub. You can just Google it. I was exploited by Pornhub, and these are quote unquote independent creators. Like just Google someone like Mia Khalifa who says that I was exploited by Pornhub. So there's plenty of testimony from these former porn actresses who say that I was exploited by these companies.
Did any of them say that they were moved to another country and forced to work in a basement? Or
they
were there...
said they were exploited. They said that they were coerced. They said that they didn't know, they were preyed upon by these companies.
Preyed upon or coerced how?
All of those statements. Ask them. They're saying that they were.
You're the one citing them, so I'm asking you.
They were promised all kinds of celebrity status and all kinds of riches. They were lured into the pornographic industry at a young age, at 18 years old, and they didn't know better. And they are arguing that these companies are all exploitative.
Okay. So we just have nothing on Andrew Tate. Do you think that sex trafficking is even real? Is that like a real crime ever?
Yeah, it's real. If you go grab someone off the street and you put them in a truck and you drive them to Mexico and you sell them into sex slavery where they're chained to a radiator, yeah, that's human trafficking. But by offering someone a position in a lucrative business, I think it's haram. I think it's completely immoral. I disavow girl business or pornography. But according to Western law, that's not considered human trafficking. That's not illegal. It's only when you start broadening the definition of what constitutes fraud and what constitutes coercion. Like, oh, you said that you would marry her, but you didn't marry her, so therefore you sex trafficked her. Like, this is the kind of evidence, quote unquote, that you have against Andrew Tate.
Well, no, my evidence is him giving a guide. We can watch another clip if you want about how he talks about
he's
how he
giving a guide about his cam business. Like, that's standard practice for
standard practice for pimping. What you said earlier was not true.
Is pornography not pimping?
No.
Is pornography not pimping?
Because you're not lying or deceiving or coercing the women into it. If you are, then it could be a form of pimping. But
honest pimps.
Saying that there can be honest pimps, that's fine. It doesn't matter. And thankfully, even in the Romanian criminal code, even if somebody that you have pimped has said you're not pimping, that has no impact on whether or not you get charged with sex trafficking or not. You said earlier that it was standard practice. You said it was standard practice in business to deceive or lie to your employees or to lie about other things. That's not standard practice in business either.
There's a veil of dishonesty.
There is not a veil of dishonesty. That's not true. And depending on how you lie, you can get prosecuted for that. I don't know what you mean by veil of dishonesty. And whatever veil of dishonesty you think you can come up with, by the way, if you were to fire an employee for discussing wages with another employee, pretty sure you can get you can get in big trouble for that. If you want to talk about like a veil of dishonesty, that's fine that maybe they aren't completely forthcoming with some things, but that's far different than saying that I bring a woman intentionally to deceive the other woman in order to get her to work a sex business for me. I don't know I don't know what world you can live in where you listen to him say that.
These women are coming to first of all, Andrew Tate is inviting them to come to Romania. They don't know who Andrew Tate is. They don't know that he's a multimillionaire. They don't know how he's got his money. They don't know his involvement with other women because he's posting about it constantly on his social media. They go to Romania, they see a house with 70 women, and they don't realize, oh, I wonder what's going on here. What is this? Oh my God, I'm completely surprised. You fooled me, Andrew, about the nature of your living and how you live your life. Like, that's the kind of naivete that you think that women have.
No, it's not naivete at all.
They're like childlike, ignorant, naive. They can't even make these kinds of basic conclusions that any normal person would immediately be able to understand. And anyway, when they get to Romania, they can leave. He's not chaining them up. He's not locking them up. You could say that, oh, he took their passport. Okay, just go out in the street. You don't know the language, so what? Just you're a beautiful young woman. Say, oh, help me, help me. You don't think people in Romania care enough to help someone who is asking for their help and screaming that, oh, I'm being held against my will. Please help me. Like, this is just so implausible, like this kind of
so none of this is implausible. So when you say that like they just show up and they see 70 women, that's not how it works. Who they're allowed to see, where they're allowed to go, who they're allowed to hang out with is all incredibly carefully controlled for. We know this because there were logs leaked by the prosecution that shows Andrew Tate talking to Vivian, telling her like, hey, show this girl to this place, take this girl to this area. We know this because in Tristan's God Mode podcast, he talks about how you can have 5, 6, 7, and 8 different women at the same time by scheduling different times of the day to be with them so that every single one of them feels like they're special and unique to you. He's got a whole podcast. We watched the entire thing where he gives tips on how to manage multiple women at the same time. And we know that there were explicit threats made that if women weren't making enough money for them, one was Andrew Tate saying that that somebody would be thrown out the window. Another claim was another woman tried to leave and they said, you're not allowed to leave this place ever unless you go with either Vivian or one of the 2 security that are here. So no, women were forced to be there. We've got a third party. I can't verify that, but a third party.
That force? Where was the force? All you mentioned is like deception. All you mentioned
the force is somebody saying that the force is that you're not allowed to leave the house or else we're gonna throw you out of the balcony. Or the force is that like you.
Where's that? Where's the proof of that? Where did Andrew Tate say you're not allowed to leave the house? Otherwise, we're gonna throw you off the balcony? That's like threat of assault and possibly homicide.
Sure. So in one of the, hold on, I can find the balcony quote if you want.
So while you're looking for that, you can look at thedailybeast.com, sexual coercion epidemic in porn, exploitation, coercion,
What does
and
any of
fraud
this have
are
to do with what we're
systematic in
talking
porn.
about?
Yeah, what does an article about porn have to do with the cam business?
We're not
You're
talking
right,
about
Destiny.
porn,
Great
and we're not
point.
talking about the
We're
cam
not talking-
business.
yeah, we're not talking about porn at all.
No, we're not. We're
You're-
not talking about the cam business
great
either. We're
point,
talking
Destiny.
about Andrew
You got
Tate
me.
and sex trafficking. So here was
You
one
got
of the
me.
conversations that were recorded. This has to do with the policewoman that was arrested alongside the Tate brothers, and it has to do with another woman that was doing work for them. Let's see. RL is the policewoman. You're free tonight to sleep. Do not waste time. So that you can be rested for tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday for the weekend. The other woman, not the victim, but another one of the pimp helpers, is so clearly there is no longer a problem with recovery. And then the victim says, "You mean? But I didn't say I'm not going in today at all." And then the policewoman says, "Well, how much do you have to recover so far? Don't lie to me because you didn't do anything today." And then Andrew Tate says, "Did you tell the new hooker that you made a lot of money?" The second part of this conversation is they talk about.
What is this from, a video or a
these
police
are
report?
logs that have been released from the prosecution. I can go ahead and link you this right here if you want.
Yeah, so logs are not these kinds of logs are highly selective. We have to see the entire context of the conversations that are happening. You can't just take a quote from a WhatsApp message and say that, oh, this is evidence that he is threatening assault. And
Okay, so when he says, so one of the statements by the police ladies was, "Punch yourself in the mouth until I arrive, because then I'll give you another 10, you incurable slacker. I'm going to break you when I get there." The victim says, "What did I do?" She says, "You have 1 hour and 10 minutes to disappear." But what did I do? Better said, "What did you do yesterday for an hour? You're 20% down, 4 days since you posted." And then another lady says, "I'm waiting for the money from yesterday." And then the police lady says, "If Andrew looks to see if you've posted TikToks, you won't have time to pack. You're flying off the balcony straight away."
so the policewoman said that.
Yes.
So Andrew Tate did not say that.
They're all part of the same criminal enterprise.
The
Yes, the
policewoman
policewoman
is
that
part
works.
of the criminal enterprise.
You.
You're quoting the policewoman. The policewoman said, "You better pack up, otherwise he's gonna throw you off the balcony."
Oh, you don't know anything about this case at all. Policewoman is one of the people arrested. You don't even know who was arrested with Andrew Tate. You have no idea what you're talking about. Holy shit! I just realized that. Fuck.
I can't even tell if you're talking about the police, a police report, or what.
Never mind.
You're just reading a line. I don't know what it's from.
You asked me to read the logs, but I just realized you don't even know who was arrested with the person.
I asked you to show me the
I'm good.
proof of
I did show you the proof. I
Tate.
literally linked you the
You
things
said
right
that
here.
policewoman said it, not Andrew Tate.
No, they're all part of the same criminal enterprise, though. That's part of what they're being charged for. Was
I
the
thought our
criminal
debate was about
organization?
Andrew Tate, right? That's what you keep referring to. We're talking about
The
Andrew
debate
Tate.
is about Andrew Tate and sex
yeah,
trafficking.
okay.
Sex trafficking. Sex trafficking typically requires an organization to do it. This is Andrew Tate's organization. There are other logs that show the hierarchy of said organization and how these women report to Andrew Tate. We can go over those logs as well, but I don't think you're familiar with any of these things.
No, all you're doing is citing. I don't know where these documents are coming from.
They're
where these
logs
messages
leaked,
are
chat
coming
logs
from.
leaked from the prosecution.
Yeah, the prosecution. Wow, I wonder, if they're giving the entirety of these messages, entirety of these statements that are being made. How can you take what the prosecution selectively decides to leak as evidence, close-cut case that Andrew Tate is threatening his girl to throw girls off of balconies if they don't?
Because I'm combining it with everything else I've heard so far. I'm combining it with Andrew and Tristan's own testimony.
Everything I've heard. I'm combining it with everything I've heard thus far, and it's not evidence. It's not compelling to me that this is proof that he is engaged in.
I agree. It's not 100% compelling. That's why we wait for the trial. But based on everything that's been released so far, seems pretty bad. No, we absolutely don't agree. You don't even know the facts of the case. We can't possibly agree.
You don't even know how the U.S. is involved in this case.
You haven't been able to tell me either. All you're saying is that the United States funds organizations that fight sex trafficking abroad? Yeah, no shit, Sherlock Holmes. That's the most obvious thing in the world. Like, yeah,
United
duh.
States funds the Organized Crime and Terrorism Investigation Directorate in Romania.
Okay, so then let me return to the very. This was the very, very, very first question.
You don't even know this.
Yeah.
You're not even aware of this.
I do.
whole
I
context.
literally.
You think it's irrelevant.
If you want,
what you said earlier is that this is completely irrelevant. That the U.S. is involved. That there's no political considerations to be taken into account here. That's like your worldview. Like that is so naive. Like don't tell me about not knowing the facts of
Yeah,
the case.
so
You don't even know who's prosecuting.
By the way,
Andrew Tate.
here you go. There's the Twitter thread. I know exactly where you're pulling this conspiracy from. I've read the entire thread.
It's not
There
conspiracy.
is no,
Go
there
to
is no
state.gov.
evidence.
State.gov/report.
I know how excited you are. Yes.
What kind of conspiracy theory is this when I'm citing the government
conspiracy that
website?
you're alleging
US
is
government.
the conspiracy.
What conspiracy theory?
I'm telling
One
you.
sec, gentlemen,
You
just
think
be sure we can hear
you think
each
it's a conspiracy that the U.S. is involved with DCOT?
No, but that's not what you're alleging. You're alleging, the conspiracy that you're alleging is that the United States is pressuring DICOT to trump up charges for Andrew Tate that have no factual basis. And so what I'm asking you is there a single piece of evidence that points to any political pressure that's causing them to fabricate evidence? That was the very first question I asked, and you talked about 50 million things. I can go back to the very first question again, and we'll do this again. We can play this till the end of the debate. Is there a single piece of direct evidence that the United States is pressuring anybody?
Yeah. Look, just like you can point to these selected WhatsApp messages and
these are hours-long podcasts by Andrew and Tristan Tate.
Hold on, let me finish. Oh, well, that's highly suggestive. I'm also saying, look at the U.S. Involvement with this Romanian prosecution. Well, that's highly suggestive. Look at the U.S. Previous history in trying to push false rape accusations against people like Martin Luther King, against people like Julian Assange. Well, that's kind of suggestive. I'm only using your same logic, Destiny, your same kind of curiosity where you say, oh, wow, Andrew Tate said this and that. That's highly suggestive that he's a sex trafficker. I'm using only the same logic. If you want to call that a conspiracy theory, then you're engaged in just as much conspiracy theory as I am.
Yeah, so just to be clear, I'm using direct logs and testimony from Andrew Tate. I'm using cutouts from hours-long podcasts that we've all listened to. You're welcome to go and do it if you want.
And none of that is
all of this
highly
is him speaking. We literally just listened to him lay out almost everything necessary on its own to prove that he was a sex trafficker. He's literally describing a pimp relationship with a girl that works for him and how he would use deception in order to get other women to think they were closer to him than they actually were. We literally just listened to a full cutout that was not edited, that wasn't from Vice. That was something that Andrew Tate himself recorded and spoke about. So if you're upset about that, that's fine. But if you're going to make claims about conspiracies about the U.S., like pressuring people to do anything, that's fine too. But you need to show me evidence for it. If you don't have any evidence other than the United States works with Eastern European countries to try to reduce the amount of sex trafficking, when these countries are well known as having massive problems with sex trafficking, you're going to have to do a little bit better.
Look, if you are telling us that we just need to trust what Tate says in these logs, and we just have to take Tate's word for it of what he's describing of his relationships, of his business practices, fine. Let's take Tate at his word. Guess what? In many places, Tate also says that he is playing a character, that he is just putting on a persona for the sake of selling his business and selling this kind of lifestyle, that he is role playing. He says this in multiple interviews, including most recently on Piers Morgan. He describes his entire activity online as a performance. So if we want to take Tate as his word and convict or impeach him on his word, then these are also things that Andrew Tate has said publicly. So this is the weakness of your case, Destiny. Like, you're just taking what Tate has said in all of these videos. Yeah, I've seen them all as well. Everyone's seen them. But the point is that, fine, that is not enough to prove, as you've acknowledged yourself, that's not enough to prove that he engaged in sex trafficking. And in any court of law, there's a presumption of innocence. There has to be he has to be proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But there's plenty of doubt that's created by all of these contextual factors that I'm bringing up. And all you have is, oh, listen to this video. Oh, look at this selected snippet from a WhatsApp log. That's the only thing that you have. Fine, I'll concede everything that you have pointed to Tate's videos, his WhatsApp messages. Fine, let's pretend like those are all in context. They're incontrovertible. There's no kind of manipulation of that data. Let's take it at its face value. It still does not prove that Andrew Tate is a sex trafficker because he says publicly that he's playing a role.
You have. I can just restate everything. You can say it's all parody or whatever, but I mean, he did grow that huge webcam business. He does give full, before he was ever an internet content creator, he gave full videos explaining how his entire business works. He spoke multiple times about moving to Romania in order to avoid certain types of laws that he seems to be trying to exploit now to run his business. Every single piece of evidence seems to point in one direction for Andrew Tate. And if you want to turn a blind eye because you're happy to have a new convert, I mean, that's fine. But Nothing you've really said today has given me any factual basis to believe anything that I've said is incorrect, and it seems like you have nothing insofar as that other than alluding to vague conspiracy theories, or black guys have been dead for over 100 years or whatever, or 80 years. So, yeah.
That's Martin Luther King is some black guy that died 100 years ago.
So I guess 6 years ago. But yeah, I don't think MLK is connected to the Andrew Tate sex trafficking case today as much as you might want him to be. But yeah,
or Julian Assange, that's irrelevant.
If there's any other evidence, although I don't think he has.
Do you think Assange is?
I didn't come here to discuss Julian Assange today.
That's fine. So
this
the
might
thing
be
is
an opportunity to go into the Q&A, unless you have any final thoughts to draw together the threads from the debate, each of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I made my case. Like all the evidence that Destiny claims to have are just statements from Tate that are highly
direct evidence.
That's direct evidence when he says he's playing a role, that he's doing a parody. That
he's not playing a role in those videos. That's not him playing a role. That's him talking explicitly about how his business works, and other people have come out and said as much. The leaked logs from the prosecution seem to say as much. Statements from the victims seem to say as much. Other things that have been released from other people that aren't even involved in this seem to say as much. There's a 16-year-old girl who was the daughter of a Romanian politician that said that Andrew and Tristan Tate are shooting out spam messages to girls on Instagram, trying to get them to come and work for them. Like, the idea that, like, none of this stuff is like, oh, well, maybe he's all just playing a character when his entire life has consistently led to this moment, and now he's gotten arrested and is being prosecuted potentially by the Romanian government for sex trafficking is just hilarious that you would buy all of that, like, oh, he's playing a character. Isn't that exactly something that a criminal that's an online social media influencer would say? Why would you not be critical of that statement at all?
Before the charges. He said that before these charges
Did he
came
say it
out.
before the investigation?
He says that.
He said that after he got banned from social media. Don't you think he might have just said that so that he could get unbanned from social media?
No, in older clips, he says the same thing. In older clips, he says that he's playing a character. Like, this was the whole issue with the UK case where he was accused of beating a woman, and that video came out that, oh, he's hitting a woman, and he explains that he's just role playing.
I mean, he says that,
sex trafficking. That's prior to the sex trafficking, and the police dropped the charges based on text messages between the women who were accusing Tate, showing that they were colluding to actually attack him.
Yeah, so that is hold on. So that is not true. So the text messages or the accusation that they were trying to collude to make up a charge is something that Andrew and Tristan Tate say, but that has never been substantiated. The statement given by...
What has been substantiated is that the case was dropped.
Sure, the case was dropped.
There were no charges. He was not arrested for that.
Yeah, that is true. That the case was indeed dropped, but it doesn't mean that there was collusion among those girls to fabricate charges against him. Plenty of cases like this get dropped.
I acknowledge that it was a claim. Sure. I acknowledge that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, every single statement that the Tates have made seem to point consistently in this direction. I mean,
you're ignoring a lot of their statements.
No, I'm ignoring the statements where they're saying, like, oh, don't take us seriously for everything, which is the childlike naivety that you have, or the desire to, I guess, like, you know, ride these guys is hilarious, because, like, the idea, like, well, he said that he didn't mean it, when they've got hours of content, hundreds of hours of content, thousands of dollars in courses, when they've got all these things that are set up in terms of, like, how to run your own pimping or trafficking business, and everything they seem to say, it's like, seems to line up with that.
Right? Yeah. You read the report, right, Destiny, from the prosecution. Did you also read the judge's report where he said that there's not enough evidence to actually charge and prosecute Tate, or indict and prosecute Tate? Did you read the judge's statement about that? And that's why his detention was extended for another 30 days as the prosecution looks for more evidence. So if it's such a clear-cut case and all of his statements are basically incriminating him online, there's hours of evidence, then why is the prosecution not going to trial? Why do they keep extending?
Hold on, you said there's a statement from the judge saying there's not enough evidence for a case right now. Can you link me that?
Yeah. Let me pull it up.
Also, how do you know he's not just role-playing being Muslim? How do you know he's serious about that?
I mean, you really can't tell what is in a person's heart. So you have to take people at the face value, what they say publicly. So he said publicly that he's playing a role, and I take that as at face value, just like you take his other statements at face value.
Okay, but how do you know that he's really a Muslim then?
Really a Muslim? You can't know anyone is really a Muslim. You can't know if I'm really a Muslim. How can you know what's in my heart? And
well, you seem to defend him a little bit on the basis, at least, that you were happy that you want to defend a Muslim brother. You said that at the beginning of this conversation.
But even if he were not a Muslim, I would defend him.
Sure, but you said in the beginning you said Muslim brother. So it's interesting you would believe a man would convert, and you seem to believe that on its face, which is a pretty astounding conversion. But you're hypercritical of all the statements he's made regarding running his pimping business?
I don't know. You take people at their face. In Islam, you judge by what is apparent. So things that we cannot know because we can't see what is in a person's mind or heart. that's irrelevant. You judge by what is apparent. So if you, for example, Destiny says, I'm a Muslim, or I'm a Christian, or I'm an atheist, I'm going to take you at your word, at the face. You can only judge people by what they show. You can't have these kind of bad assumptions about
So then why do you take him at his face when he says he's just playing a role?
That's consistent. How is that inconsistent? I'm taking him at his face in both cases.
Then why don't you take him at his face when he accurately describes and lays out how to run a pimping business?
I explained. I do take that at its face.
So
that was my whole argument. Even if you take it at its face, it's not enough to prove that he was engaged in trafficking. That's the whole argument, Destiny. Look, you're a really smart, Destiny. I really admire your ability to argue in a debate, but you really are not conversant with the points that I'm making. I acknowledge that take him completely at his face, all of the messages, all of the videos, take him at its face. It's still not enough to prove that he was engaged in trafficking, because the standards of trafficking and rape are very subjective. Coercion, fraud, exploitation, these are all contested terms.
They're not. They're all part of the Romanian criminal code.
I cited Yale Law Review articles.
What is Yale Law? First of all, you didn't cite any of these articles. Also, secondly, these things, we're talking about Romanian criminal law. We're not talking about the U.S. criminal code.
I've talked about the U.S. trafficking laws that dictate what Romanian prosecutors do through DICOT, through
you haven't shown anything
Romania.
Though that they're being influenced by the United States to put political charges here.
So again, I have your standards, Destiny. It's suggestive. It's suggestive that the U.S. is involved.
Oh, okay. Well, if you want to admit that, all you have is a suggestion, and that's literally it. Then,
everything that you've said is just a suggestion.
No, I've got direct testimony from Andrew Tate.
I'm fine with that.
I have direct stuff, and you're saying we'll just ignore that he's just faking it. You just have suggestions.
The direct statement, okay, that you said, "Oh, I'm going to throw you off a balcony," turned out not to be from Andrew Tate at all. So you don't have any
from his organization. I've got plenty of direct statements from Andrew Tate on how to run his pimping business. We just listened to 2 or 3 minutes of talking about.
Maybe his employee, part of the organization, spoke out of line and wasn't actually representing the business practices of Andrew Tate.
Okay. That sounds
the
totally
direct connection, Destiny?
The direct. We can go and read more.
Totally autistic about there has to be explicit proof and explicit connection. Okay, we can play that game too. Destiny, where's the explicit? Where did Destiny? I need a recorded video of him saying that I am not role playing right now, and I'm gonna throw you off the balcony if you step foot out of this house. That's the standard I need. I'm just applying your standard, Destiny, because when you say that there's no U.S. involvement in his case, and I proved to you that DICOT in the Romanian government is directly connected to the U.S. government. You can go to the State Department website that describes the relationship in detail. It's not a conspiracy theory. You say, oh, that's just
sure.
not
So
relevant.
in a transcript that was leaked, one of the messages that was exchanged was Andrew Tate saying that Tristan and Georgiana are over there, but I lead them. In terms of another girl asked him, I heard you're the one running the OnlyFans and TikTok girls business. I can link you this article if you want where those logs come from. But yes, clearly there was a hierarchy here. And clearly he is in charge of running and managing these people. These leaked logs are consistent with everything else he's also said too. I mean, I don't know how many logs you want, but I don't think I show you anything that would honestly convince you.
There's nothing that...
Yeah, I know.
There's nothing that
could change your mind.
That you're trying to establish. There's nothing that says that these women couldn't have gone out at any time. Many of them did go out, which shows that they could actually leave the house, and if they were so coerced, all you can say is that he intimidated them so much that they couldn't run away. That's basically the case that you're making. It's highly speculative.
Yeah, well, one of them wanted to leave, and they said explicitly that you're not allowed to be anywhere on your own. You can only leave the house with other people protecting you.
All right, well, if that's evidence, then why can't you accept that the U.S. threatens economic sanctions on the basis of human trafficking? Romania has been threatened to be sanctioned by the U.S. on the basis of human trafficking. How can you not see that that's relevant to this case?
When did the United States threaten to sanction Romania?
By putting them on the Tier 2 watch list on the TIPS report, human trafficking report. That's why I cited. So you don't know these facts about this case. That's the problem.
No, hold on.
All you know is
this
some
has nothing
videos
to do with the case.
on
And two,
YouTube.
I asked you for a year.
That's your research.
You're telling me the United States threatened to sanction.
Yeah, any country that is on the Tier 2 watch list is under threat of sanction.
So they didn't sanction them. They're under threat of sanction.
Under threat, yes.
So they didn't threaten to sanction them. They didn't sanction them.
Yes, under threat of sanction. That is what it means.
Okay, so there was no sanction. None of that. All of that is. Okay.
Yeah, under threat of sanction is the same.
Life. Fear.
Dream last night. A vision. I saw a world full of people. Everybody was dancing and screaming loud. They were just there to listen to the music. It was deep. It was underground. Let's turn the world into a dance floor.
Are you guys ready for a state of trance? Put your hands in the air, come on!
Your weekly update on the latest in trance and progressive. This is a state of trance. Armin van Buren.
Live from our house in Amsterdam, make some noise! Nina, are you ready?
Yes.
Ferry, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Ruben, are you ready?
Let's go!
Amsterdam, are you ready? Let's celebrate this one more time. Let me see those hands up. Come on. The State of Trance 1000 theme turned the world into a dance floor. One more time. An anthem that has been our soundtrack for almost 3 years, waiting for the dance floors to open and celebrate episode 1000 in style. And that time has come. Welcome to a brand new episode of A State of Trance. I'm Armin van Buren with Ruben Durant, Ferry Corson and Nina, and I can say this is quite a monumental moment in the history of this radio show. Coming up, new music by Sander Van Doorn, Brian Carney, and the premiere of my brand new single. And also, on very special demand, the lineup for A State of Trance, the mega event taking place on the 3rd and 4th of March in Utrecht. But first, ladies and gentlemen, the new intro of the State of Trance radio show. If you're watching the video stream, you can see that we're not coming from our studio, but tonight we come from our house in Amsterdam. And we're here with a bunch of friends. We're entering a new chapter in this radio show, and I'm going to tell you everything that we're going to do. Amsterdam, are you ready? Here we go.
For all the best in trance and progressive.
Are you guys ready for a State of Trance? Put your hands in the air, come on!
Celebrating the best new music from around the world. This is a State of Trance.
So, are you guys excited? So there we have it, a new era, the era of reflection. For me, reflection is about going back to the roots, why we love this music. New artwork, a new layout, new color, new logo, but the same host and the friendly faces that you know. New music every single week delivered straight to your eardrums. Coming up in hour number 2, guest mixes by Aveo, Laura Van Dam, Alan Watts, and Ferry Corsten. But first, the only way to enter a new chapter of A State of Trance, this is the official anthem. My team up with Cosmic Gates. Make some noise for Reflection!
5.
Why must beauty die? Always cast aside, left alone, lonely. I'm watching love decay, flash and fade away. I know you know, so show me. So why does darkness bleed every broken street? Answer is whatever. Slow as the winter comes, leaves me nearly numb, aching for forever.
A state of states of states of states of states.
Forever, 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 I will never love again. Forever, 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 I will never love again.
last week's show. This is the future favorite.
Trance, live from Amsterdam. Make some noise! Big shout out to one of the biggest talents in the progressive scene right now. I know he's tuned in right now. A brand new track on Ferry Corsten's Flashover Recordings, Q-Record with Bitfrost. For that, the future favorite, hottest track of last week's episode, Lumen and Yoshi and Rasner, Out of the Cage.
You're tuning to a State of Trance live from our house in Amsterdam. And if you haven't already, chat along on the video streams and join the chat. On Discord, Armin van Buren.
And we're entering the era of reflection this week. And we do that with a full venue of amazing fans. One more time, Amsterdam, make some noise!
And just a little side note, all of these amazing people over here are part of Armin's All Access Web3 community. And you flew in from all over the world. It's really nice to see the faces behind the username. So, cool guys, really nice, welcome.
Yeah, normally we stare at the camera, but it's you that's behind there. So it's really nice to see every one of you. All right, guys, this is what everybody's been waiting for. We've been getting so many emails from people. When are you going to announce the lineup for A State of Trance? Now, the event is sold out. It was sold out 3 years ago, but hey. There are 5 stages to be announced for this Saturday, and we will tell you all about the plans for the Friday event as well, which will have a second stage as well. So it's Friday 2 stages, Saturday 5 stages. Let's put it that simple. All of that coming up.
Time now for the first stage on Saturday. This first stage, ladies and gentlemen, which is the second main stage. Here we go.
And that's the first one.
If you're not watching the video stream, Ahmed Helmi, Andrew Royale, Armin van Buren, Ben Gold, Brian Kearney, Cosmic Gate, Giuseppe Ottaviani 3.0 Live, and Will Atkinson.
It's Carney.
Carney, sorry. Sorry, sorry.
And the event is sold out, but I have some good news for you if you missed out due to unfinished payments. We got a very small batch of tickets left. Register now via stateoftrance.com. Tickets are on sale on Saturday, the 21st of January from 11 a.m. Central European time via the State of Trance website. So, all right, something else that's really nerve-wracking when you premiere new music. Who's ready for some new music? Well, one of the good things about COVID is that I've been locking myself in the studio, creating a lot of new music. It's a track I've been playing a lot in my live sets recently, and I wrote this one with the wonderful Stuart Crichton in Los Angeles. Who is ready for the world premiere of Dayglow?
Armin van Buren's favorite track. This is the tune of the week.
together, shining in the day glow, in the day glow, in the day glow, shining in the day glow, in the day glow, in the day glow. Shining in the day we could live